Hey guys, this is Panda here, and today I have a guide for you on how to make a Voltaxic Sparker. This is the build I started Legacy with, and it is a great build if you're a new player or if you're just getting into the league and you want something that's a pretty solid build and can go all the way to endgame stuff. So to get it started, I'm going to talk about the items you're going to need, as well as the passive tree and the skill gem setup. This build will work either life-based or CI, and will work with multiple classes and ascendancies, so it's honestly up to you which one you want to use. For me personally, I used a Ranger Pathfinder, and I'm life-based. You'll actually have better results as a CI just because of the way CI is nowadays, but totally up to you. Okay, so let's get into the gear and the uniques you're going to need. So this is a Voltaxic Sparker build, so the first thing that comes to mind is your weapon, which is going to be the Voltaxic Rift Spine Bow. The special thing about this spine bow, other than adding lightning damage, is that it does convert your lightning damage to chaos. Chaos damage cannot be reflected back at you, and it also gives your chaos damage a chance to shock and a nice 10% chance to shock as well. This is great for doing LE reflect maps or at Zeri, where you have to deal with a lot of reflect like that. It makes it a lot more manageable. And yeah, so now that we have our weapon, so the next thing is going to be the quiver that we're going to be using with this bow, and that's going to be the drill neck. This one increases your projectile damage based off your arrow pierce chance. Now this actually used to be 100%, they nerfed it down to 50. Not a build killer, still good, still the best in slot quiver that will work with this build. Again, I did go life-based, so these next two unique items, you won't need them if you went CI. So I went Winds of Change for Ancient Gauntlets. These ones give you more life, projectile speed, and projectile damage, as well as knockback chance, but at the cost of reducing your movement speed. This got slightly buffed in 2.6 as the reduced movement speed is now 5 to 10% instead of just a flat 10%. So you're going to want to try to find as low as you can when you try to buy these gloves. And for my chest, Belly of the Beast, just more life that way and some resistances, which is nice, as well as 50% increased life flask recovery rate, which is really nice. It pretty much, with the Pathfinder, we have our life flask up pretty much 100% of the time as we're killing stuff in maps and such. So we're gonna move on to the flask setup. I do have one life flask with immunity to bleeding. Always make sure you have that. The two unique flasks that I'm using are Adzeri's Promise for more damage and leech, and Vessel of Vinctar again for more leech and straight up just more damage. The two utility flasks, these are pretty much up to you, but I chose to use a silver flask for onslaught, which gives more cast speed and movement speed, as well as a quicksilver flask. You can use a basalt flask if you want for more defensive options. So for the rest of the gear and jewelry and such, all I have are rare ones with life and resists. Nothing too fancy there. On the amulet, try to get some spell damage and cast speed if you can. On your rings, try to get mana regen if you can. It's not a big deal if you can't. For my helmet, I do have the Uber Lab enchant, which grants 3 additional spark projectiles. This is a massive boost to damage, but at the same time, it's not necessary if you can't get it. This was probably one of the more expensive parts of the build. This cost me about 2.5x. So definitely not needed until you get the currency to buy it yourself, or you might get lucky doing the Uber Lab, up to you. And then for boots, just make sure you get life and resist, as well as 30% movement speed. So let's move on to the skill gem setup, and of course our main skill is going to be Spark in a 6-link setup. There's a lot of options for support gems for Spark, just because it's a projectile spell, does lightning damage and chaos damage thanks to Voltaxic Rift, so there's a lot of ways to scale your damage here. In order of importance, I have it linked with Spell Echo, Pierce, Controlled Destruction, and Void Manipulation. If you are trying to go scale your crit, obviously you can swap out Controlled Destruction for something like Add Chaos or Faster Projectiles. For your 6th link, This is up to you. It can be anything from faster projectiles, slower projectiles, added chaos, or those are those are pretty solid options right there. So the other skill setups we have is a Wither Totem. The Wither skill is a debuff that stacks up to 20 times, and it makes enemies take increased chaos damage. 7% chaos damage, increased chaos damage taken per stack. So once you get these bad boys channeling, this really helps with single target and just taking out bosses super fast. And it's just honestly a great skill for any chaos damage based build. So that's why it's there. And then for auras, Wrath for lightning damage. If your mana regen isn't so hot, mine isn't right now, I have a Clarity linked with Enlighten. For a third aura, if your mana regen is good and you want a different aura, Herald of Ice or Herald of Thunder, I can't even talk right now, are both good options. They just straight up give you more damage, and just make sure you link those with an Enlighten and you're good to go. I also have Blink Arrow with faster attacks. This is our mobility skill. Helps us get through things like the labyrinth easier, and just it's a good quick escape if you do get surrounded by mobs and things like that. So since I am a life base, I am trying to get a Calm's Heart. Calm's Heart does not have any sockets in the chest piece, but if you go CI, you do CI, or if you're not getting a Calm's Heart, you do have a lot of options here. You can have up to 6 additional gems up to your choosing. You can have something like a cast when damage taken, Immortal Coil, increased duration setup. You can fully link a Blink Arrow if you want, give Blink Arrow faster attacks, Calling Strike, Blind. It's a nice defensive utility, a Decoy Totem, things like that. A lot of options for utility-based skill gems that you want to set up here if you're not going Calm's Heart. That's what I'm planning to get eventually, so that's why I don't really have any skill gems that I'm using in my chest piece for now. So we're going to move on to the passive skill tree. I did go ranger based, and again, depending on what class you start with, just try to pick up spell damage, life or energy shield depending on which you're going. And the two important clusters that I want to point out are the increased duration here. Increasing the duration of Spark makes them last longer, so they're flying around for longer periods of time. But if you do go the Ranger, I just started off here with the projectile damage. Start here, picked up Heart of Oak for more life. I don't pick up the Chaos clusters until you get the Voltaxic Rift, of course, and I don't pick up Volpact until I get Leech. So I went up to the Shadow area, got more life, more damage, and then I went over to the right, made sure I got the Pierce chance fairly early. This is where you get 50% Pierce chance. Pair that up with the Pierce support gem, and now you have 100% Pierce. Good stuff there. Then you go over to the Scion area. The only part I don't like about this tree that I planned out is I had to cut through the evasion cluster on the Scion wheel, which isn't really useful for us at all, but it's the only way to get to exceptional performance and then eventually potency of will, which increases your skill duration. And then you can even get the Scion life wheel if you want. If you're CI, you're going to cross through the energy shield cluster, which is actually pretty good for you, at least, I would say, if you want to get that as well. For your jewels, make sure you get either life or energy shield, depending on which one you're going, of course, and your choice of projectile damage, chaos damage, spell damage, cast speed, projectile speed. A lot of options for jewels. You don't need any unique ones at all to make this work. And the way I've had this tree set up over here, I made it so that Chaos Inoculation isn't too far away if you do want to go CI, and Ghost Reaver isn't far off either. They're just both one intelligence node away, just to allocate them. So if you want to go CI, it's definitely an option for you. And then Any other points that you might get, just whatever you need. If you need more health, or energy shield, or more damage, or cast speed, I've pretty much set it up so you can easily grab some if needed. Now, my ascendancy is the Pathfinder, but like I said earlier, this will work with other ascendancies, but for the Pathfinder, I did take Master Herbalist first. This allows my Spark projectiles to poison on hit whenever I use a flask, as well as give me some nice chaos resistance and increased damage with poison. Now, if you're not going Pathfinder, you're going to want to use a poison support gem in your 6th link somewhere. So maybe instead of control destruction, you can use a poison support. Up to you. Nature's Boon replenishes our flask charges every 3 seconds, as well as a 20% chance to not consume charges when you use a flask. Nice little effect there. And then Master Alchemist gives us 40% increased elemental damage when we use a flask, as well as immune to elemental status ailments when you use a flask, and 20% chance to freeze, shock, and ignite when you use a flask. Pretty nice stuff there. So for the Uber Lab, we go for the Veteran Bowyer here. We do get the damage penetrates 10% of your elemental resistances, which is great. A great little damage boost there. But the key thing in this node is getting 100% increased flash charges when you kill enemies that are affected by an elemental status ailment. So that synergizes perfectly with Master Alchemist. So anytime we freeze, shock, ignite an enemy, we're getting increased flash charges, which means more Edzeri's Promise, more Vessel of Vinctar, always up, which means I don't need a mana flask when I'm doing maps. I would only recommend a mana flask on boss fights, especially the longer ones like Edzeri, where you might not have Vessel of Vinctar up all the time. So that's pretty much the skill tree there. So to level up this build, all you're going to want to do is just dual wield wands. Just try to get as much spell damage, lightning damage, and even cast speed if you can on these wands. Pretty much level it all the way to until you can use a Voltaxic Rift, which is the minimum requirement. Level requirement is 64. You'll be able to carry yourself all the way up to maps, just dual wielding wands with lightning damage, just because that's how good Spark is. Once you get some levels into it, the damage starts getting easily scales up, and you'll be able to clear all the content fairly easy. If you are having trouble with bosses and you need just a tad more single target damage, I would suggest using a Storm Call. Just use Storm Call, either Spell Echo or faster casting, reduced duration, and maybe like added lightning damage for a cheap 4-link. Just something to get you by all the way until you get into Dried Lake Merciless. Just farm that. For the currency, you're going to need to buy a Voltaxic and a Drill Neck. Those are both fairly cheap, by the way. Last I checked, Voltaxic Rifts are about 4 chaos. Might even be cheaper by now. Drill Necks were 7 to 8 when I bought them. They could be lower as the league goes on, so definitely not too expensive there. Like I said, the most expensive gear was the Uber Lab enchant, and the Vessel of Vinctars was also pretty expensive. Again, not too hard, and you don't actually need the Vessel of Vinctar to get into maps. As long as you have good mana regen, Warlord's Mark, and Blasphemy setup, you'll have a decent amount of leech to keep you going, at least for a fairly good while. Just Vessel of Vinctar is definitely worth saving up for, of course, for the OP leech. That's pretty much how you level up this build. And that's pretty much the build guide. I mean, if you guys have any questions, feel free to leave them down below in the comments, and I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.